I mean, I'm gonna play that. Almost certainly.
There is no place for savagery
Yup.
in the new Shurima. Conquest is always bloody.
I mean, that is so much damage. Hey everyone, Raptor Spank here, and today we have On the Grind, a show where I cover a deck I'm playing in Ranked. I'll break down the deck, talk about some flex spots, and then go into some basic mulligans, and then we'll put the deck through some ranked matches and review how we do afterwards. So, what are we playing this week? It was a long and up and down battle. There was a number of decks I wanted to do, and all of them performed exceptionally terrible this week. So, in the end, I settled on something that's near and dear to my heart. I've covered it once in the past. It's gotten me to Masters on multiple occasions, and it's a spicy new version of it, and that's Decisive Aggro. The original versions of this deck, if you count the Darrowing version, which I wouldn't, but there was a Darius Harrowing version of the deck, and then that kind of got turned into a Decisive Maneuver overwhelm deck with Targon mixed in, and then now it's in Shurima, and it's pretty sweet in Shurima. Shurima adds quite a lot to the deck, actually. On paper, you don't expect it to add quite as much, but Shurima's buffs are a bit better than Targon's after the nerfs. So the deck is just designed to have a lot of fast, aggressive threats combined with some really, really good overwhelm threats, and Shurima adds another great one in Ruin Rider. And then also Renekton is just really, really strong. It comes down a bit faster than things like Darius did. So that's basically how the deck works. Play big things, swing with big things, and kill your opponent as fast as you can. So let's jump straight into the deck. This starts with the champion package, so this starts with 3 copies of Draven. Draven's just a nice, sweet, aggressive threat. One of the best 3-drops in the game, has been for a long time, continues to be in this deck. Not to mention those spinning axes are really valuable when we're going to have a lot of overwhelmers, and just a lot of places where the more damage we can do, the better. And just in general, if we can level up Draven, he also becomes an overwhelmer, so then he fits in that threat as well. And then, when you're using overwhelm threats, Whirling Death becomes very amazing. So his champion spell's really, really good for the deck as well, because you can use it to kill the blocker and then deal your full damage to your opponent. It's also great for leveling up Draven super quickly, because you can use the axe, then Whirling Death, then hit a second time, and you level him up right then and there with only a single axe. So just in general, Draven's really great. He's a super aggressive 3-drop. He attacks safely because of quick attack, and he gives us buffs that are great with all of our units, and we already have some number of his champion spell in our deck just regularly, so additional copies, great. And then the new addition to the deck, 3 copies of Renekton. Renekton's replaced Darius, and this is an arguable change, but essentially he's much lower on the curve and can still do a ton of damage. He can pretty quickly get to Darius levels, especially with the number of buffs that we have. And just in general, he buffs himself when he challenges something, and we do have a number of ways to give him Challenger, either through giving something vulnerable or using his own champion spell to accomplish that, so he can deal a ton of damage like that, and if he levels up, he's going to continue to do even more damage. So just a really great on-curve overwhelm threat for the deck that's just going to really dominate early, so just a solid include all around. Then we have our Landmark package, pretty small, but we have 3 copies of Ancient Preparation. This does a number of things with the deck. It combos with a certain spell we have, but also it's a great 1 mana 2/2, which is just solid for the deck, and it lets us just kind of mess with our draw and make sure that we're drawing the best possible thing out of the 3 we get to choose from. But, you know, any way to manipulate our draws is always nice, and a good body to go with it for low mana. And then we have our Follower package, which starts with the Shurima Aggro Classic, 3 copies of Dunekeeper. It's just an amazing aggro piece, one of the best 1-drops in the game, to be quite honest, because it does give you a very easy potential for 4 damage on turn 1. So we just have it because it's super aggressive, and that's pretty much the only reason we have it. It's just one of the best early drops in the game, and certainly one of the best in Shurima. And then we have 3 copies of Rockhopper. This probably looks like a little bit of a weird include, but a 3-1 is pretty aggressive if we're playing against a deck that doesn't interact a lot in the early games. This can deal a ton of damage, but its real value is in the Roiling Sands it comes with. It's a body that comes with this landmark. The landmark then gives vulnerable to the next thing they play, so you can use that to really exploit your opponent and force them to play in a way that's suboptimal for them because they don't want to run something into this. It's a great answer for, say, Lucian decks where they're going to play Lucian on turn 2. If you get to play the Rock Hopper first, they're not going to want to play that Lucian. They're going to want to find something else to play before they play Lucian, so that's really good. But also the Roiling Sands helps to enable Renekton by giving vulnerable to something so Renekton can challenge it. Then we have 3 copies of Xenotype Researchers. This is a pretty debatable include between this and the Ballistas, but Xenotype is pretty strong since it does buff 3 units in your deck and give them +3/+3, which with a number of overwhelm threats in the deck is a rather sizable increase to do, and it can definitely be pretty amazing for us. And even if you give it to like a Dunekeeper, that's still a 4/3 or a 5/4 Dunekeeper, which is insanely powerful on its own. It makes it a lot more of a threat, so just a great value card all around. And then we have 2 copies of Bakai Sandspinner. This is another really, really nice card. It's very aggressive and powerful on its own. It's got 5 power, which is always nice, but also gives vulnerable to something and lowers its power, which can be great for when you're swinging to lower the power so that you can pull it, but also not take too much damage from it. But also, it's great for just reducing the damage on the defensive turn. It's a great turn for when you're not going to get to attack because you can shrink something, and then it's vulnerable for a later round to pull it with something like Renekton or an Overwhelmer so that your non-overwhelm units can force damage through. And then we have one of the best cards in the deck, 3 copies of Ruin Runner. This is one of the best reasons to go Shurima. Great body. It's a 5-mana 6/4 with Overwhelm. That's insane already. That's so good, but it has Spell Shield, and that's the best part. Great answer for control decks, especially with how early it comes down. They're going to have a hard time both ripping Spell Shield off and then killing it at that low of a mana point. And then with a bunch of buffs, you can make it pretty busted very quick. So it's just a really great curve out for the deck that's super hard for many decks to deal with. And then finally, our curve topper with 2 copies of Captain Farron. Also great into the control matchup because it gives us Decimates to close out the game. And it's just going to generally be really good into slow mid-range decks and control decks. Just a good finisher and a huge body, so deals a ton of damage. Awesome finisher. You've probably seen it before. Captain Farron's just great in Noxus decks. So, let's talk about the spell package. Mentioned that there was other ways to give Challenger to Renekton, and Exhaust is one of the best ways to do it. 1 mana spell, we got 2 copies of it. It shrinks the power of the opponent's unit, and gives it vulnerable, so Renekton can pull it, kill something important, also reduce the damage that something important is going to do to Renekton, so he doesn't take too much damage. And it is a focus spell, so you can't use it in combat to answer your opponent's attack, but it's fine. It's really just there to make your Renekton a lot better, or just get optimal blocks, so that's the big reason for it. Then we have 3 copies of Shapestone. Shapestone is the thing I mentioned about why we have stuff like Ancient Preparations and Rock Hopper, is that both of those enable our Shapestone, and so we can pretty easily hit a landmark in most games, and then Shapestone being +3/+1 is insanely good with how many Overwhelmers we have, so significantly better than the nerfed Pale Cascade, so that's one of the best reasons we're running Shurima instead of Targon now, is that Shapestone can very easily outpace the Pale Cascade, essentially. And then we also have a 2 of Noxian Fervor. This one I'm much less sold on, but Burn can always be really great into certain matchups, so having it is great. You can also use it to deny life gain, things like that. So there's a number of value for it, but definitely one of the weaker spells in the deck. And then we have 2 copies of Whirling Death. I mentioned this is really good. I always love Whirling Death and Decisive Aggro when you can get it in. There's been times it's dropped off the list to go more unit heavy, but generally speaking, it's just a really nice card with Overwhelmers because you can kill the blocker and then deal full damage to the Nexus. You can turbo level Draven. It's just so good on so many levels. So love the card. Really great. And then we also have 2 copies of Whispered Words, one of the new Noxus cards. This is why we can do a lot better now than even previously, because now we have card draw in our deck. We can pretty easily get this down below cost, but just in general, if we can't, 4 mana draw 2 is pretty solid, especially considering that the old versions of this deck didn't have access to that much card draw. So Great card, love it. Good in many cases, even if we can't get it cheap. And then the big title card of the deck, Decisive Maneuver, insanely powerful. We've got a little less overwhelm threats now than we used to, but still really, really strong. You can use it on the defensive to stop an important attacker. You can use it on the offense just to deal a ton of damage to your opponent, and you can even stun something that's blocking your overwhelmers to get even more damage. Just all sorts of great. Has a lot of things it can do on the deck, so just a solid card. Might even consider going up copies on this, to be honest. And then finally, 2 copies of Siphoning Strike. I'm still not 100% sold on this card. I keep messing around with it. It can do some crazy powerful things. It's a one-sided strike, which is great. We love that, and it does pump all of our champions, which is great to make Renekton a lot bigger. But essentially, Renekton's going to be the most value you're going to get out of it. Draven can be good too, especially if you've leveled him up. But in general, it's just a good one-sided removal spell that pumps some of our most important units. So that's the big reason we're running it. And then let's talk about some flex spots. First up, there's the obvious one, Darius. You can put some number of Dariuses into this deck. It's something I've hem and hawed about myself. If I were to do it, I would probably drop a single Draven and go up 1 Darius. I probably would not drop the Renekton. It's just super powerful for the deck, so I'm more married to Renekton than I am Draven, so I might consider the possibility of dropping a Draven for that 1 Darius, or you could even go crazy and drop all 3 Dravens for a full playset of Dariuses, but if you do that, you probably want to drop the Captain Farron's for some 3 costs as well. Probably Ballista, something like that to fix your curve so it's not too crazy. But I think it is pretty reasonable to go maybe up a 3 cost of some kind, down a Draven, and then up a Darius is probably a solid choice, because Darius is just an incredibly good finisher, and we can get him leveled up long before you play him. So that's one of the biggest flex spots for the deck. As for some other flex spots, there's a number of things you can do. Let's talk about some of the followers first. Biggest things you can do, you can add in some Legion Saboteurs. Probably start trimming the late game package a bit, I would say, if you go that route. Maybe drop like a Sand Spinner, drop a Captain Farron, throw in like 2 Legion Saboteurs, and that way you're going to have that more aggressive turn 1 more often. That's probably worth doing. Probably the best change you can make, though, is Iron Ballistas. These are really, really strong. It's just a great overwhelm threat. It's been a part of the deck for a long time in previous iterations. I'm actually probably going to mess around with it more myself and try to get it into the list. I think there's some places where you could probably go down spells and go up Ballista, and it'll probably make the deck a little more consistent, but maybe not quite as OTKing. But just in general, it's a great overwhelm threat for very cheap that you can throw in there, and it makes decisive maneuvers even better because it has overwhelm. And in a similar vein, you can always go Rampaging Bakai. It's a little bit high in cost, but there's a good chance that you can get to Slay fairly quickly, especially with the current spell package with things like Siphoning Strike and Whirling Death, and just in general hitting them and attacking constantly. So there's a good chance we can get to Slay 4, so you can always play Bakai as another Overwhelmer that's going to come in and serve as sort of removal too, but obviously it has a risk of dying. But in general, that's something you could consider too, but that's definitely the lowest priority on those picks. And then some changes you can do in the spell package. There's a number of things. One, we're a Shurima deck. You can run Red of Negation. And I'm a little surprised at first that people weren't running it in the deck, but you don't necessarily feel like you really, really need it because we're pretty quick, so we get under a lot of things that Red of Negation would be there to deal with. But I could definitely see running some rights to prevent some things like, say, Revitalizing Roar or Ruination. You could definitely do it. I probably would only go up maybe 1 because we are such a focused aggro deck. You don't want too many cards that aren't going to do anything. So I would probably only go with 1. And then, just in general, a couple of other things you can do. Instead of Siphoning Strike, you could always go Wild Claws. That's pretty spicy, but can deal a ton of damage. And in some cases, it'll do more damage, honestly, than Siphoning Strike will, because if you don't have champions, then you're not going to be able to buff them. But Wild Claws on a Ruin Rider, for example, is going to do a fair amount of damage. So that's something you could do. Probably wouldn't mess with it either way, but it's something to consider. And then you could replace those Noxian Fervors with Decimate to do a little more pound for pound damage, but not be able to use it to prevent life gain, stuff like that. So that's something you consider. If life-stealing units aren't something you're terribly concerned with, you could go Decimate instead and just go for the raw damage potential of it. And then, of course, you can play with the numbers. A lot of things to play around with regards to the numbers in this case, because you can go up decisive maneuvers. I think you can drop a lot of spells to go up consistency. You could drop those Noxian Fervors to go up like a third decisive maneuver, maybe a third Whispered Wood for card draw, or you could go up a third Whirling Death for that sweet combat trick. And Whirling Death does kind of work in the same way as Noxian Fervor to prevent lifesteal, so that's something worth considering. And yeah, you could just play around with a lot of numbers, especially in the spell package. The unit package is a little more fine-tuned and a little harder to play around with numbers in, but there's definitely things you can do and increase and put other cards in the deck, essentially. So that's the flex spots for the deck. As for basic mulligans, the big thing you want to do, you're an aggro deck, so look for aggressive hands, basically in any single matchup. I'll often keep a Renekton in my starting hand. I'll always keep a Draven, because Draven is such a great attacker who's very safe and things like that, so that's great. I'll try to keep spells pretty low, generally speaking. I don't want to keep a ton of them, because we have a lot of them, so I'd rather have action in hand, and then draw into the spells that'll be effective. So look for a lot of units. Look to have some sort of overwhelmer threat. I'll basically keep Dunekeeper in any matchup that I find it, because it is our best turn 1 play. Ancient Preparations is fine to keep. Rolling Sands or Rockhopper is great to keep in matchups where you expect them to have some early game unit that you really are going to want to kill. But basically into the other aggro decks, you're going to look for bigger threats, and then good blockers. Like Dunekeeper into Rockhopper is great for trading with their attackers, essentially, and Dunekeeper gives you 2 blocks for 1 mana, which is awesome. But then look for things like Draven and Renekton and Rune Rider, because those will just outclass your opponent's stuff, and things like decisive maneuvers can just be a blowout against them. And just look to have the better units, not necessarily the most units. Other than that, going into mid-range, Draven, again, really great. Renekton, really great. Rune Rider, really great, because they trade with most things. But Sand Spinner can be pretty good for lowering their power. Exhaust can be really great for making sure you're killing their stuff without losing yours. Whirling Death is great for breaking symmetry. And Decisive, again, also pretty solid, because it can boost your stuff to make sure that you kill their things, and stun whatever you can't deal with. So another great spot for that. And against Control, again, Rune Rider's great, Captain Farron's great. They both make it very hard for Control. It's very hard for them to kill Rune Rider the turn it comes down, because they have a hard time having enough mana to both strip it and kill it, since it has 4 health instead of 3. And then Captain Farron just gives you all those decimates to close out the late game. So that's the basic mulligans you're going to want to look for, and that's the deck for this episode. So if you like the deck, there's a deck code in the description below, as well as a deck link. And let's jump into some ranked matches and see how we do. Uh-oh. If there's a deck that can out-aggro us, that's the one. Seems a little weird not to be running Darius, at least in some respects. Sheepstone's actually pretty good here. Rest of that's not. Renekton is good. We like that. We definitely like that. This is a pretty slow hand, though, which is not great against something like this, where I expect to get absolutely turbo blasted. Ooh, okay. That makes things a lot better. That's an answer for Lucian. So I can predict, put something on top. Is there something I want on top here? Do I want Renekton for his champion spell? I might. I think his champion spell's kind of worth it for the vulnerable and the challenging. Dear Lord, and he has Fleet Feather Tracker. Not great. Not great, because he gets to play something before we get to play this Rockhopper. Ooh, or he doesn't get to play something before we get to play this Rockhopper. Perfect. Whew.
Beneath me and winds behind me.
I don't know why I thought Shapestone wasn't going to be that good. I totally forgot this deck's running Ancient Preparations. That was a pretty bad predict, though, to be entirely honest with you. That predict was not great. Do I swing? No, I just play Xenotype.
That's new.
First. Do that. And then we can swing. We don't want to play anything, because if we play something, it's going to get marked with sands. I mean, you could still play the Azir, but...
Odd behavior.
Yeah, we'll just full swing. Maximum potential damage. We are an aggro deck, so we are looking to go aggressive. Yeah, that's kind of what I expected. Deep thinking. Okay. Good chunk in. That is a good amount of damage. Okay. That's not too bad.
Don't get it.
Yeah, that is worse. Not that we're surprised or anything. I mean, we knew they had something. Oh, decisive maneuvers. We like that. Yeah, so if he swings, we would take 5. I can take 5. Unless he just doesn't swing with a solution. If he spends all of his mana and swings with Lucian, then we kill the Lucian by using Shapestones on this Xenotype. Okay, well, I mean, if he's gonna do that, we will block. And reduce the damage we take. I mean, I can't imagine that he's about to cast Relentless Pursuit. It would be the greediest Relentless Pursuit I've ever seen. If he does. Especially since his chances of killing this Renekton are extraordinarily slim. Yeah. Yup. Okay, so that gives +2 to him. But I would rather just do... give an ally +2 to give an enemy vulnerable. Okay, maybe we would do that. For the reputation, is that worth it?
No surrender.
Okay, well, we'll try this, see what else he has. Got another damage boost? Nope. Okay, well, you're down to 5. And he is kind of close to leveling up. And we can protect him with this decisive maneuver, potentially. See what my opponent has, though. That might have been a little bit greedy with the Renekton, in all fairness. Okay, another Lucian. Alright, alright. Not a problem. Not a problem at all. That would be sweet. I would like the Dune Keeper. I have a feeling we're just going to decisive maneuver to protect this Renekton. It's a little bit risky because I mean, like, there's plenty of opportunities for my opponent to be able to kill Renekton anyways.
Onward, Golden Warriors!
Can I kill that? I can't, right? Yeah, that's not enough to kill it.
Burn away the shadows.
Yeah, I mean, I think we just block everything, right?
That's not tamper-proof.
Keep your distance.
Yeah. I think that's fine. Okay. Oh, that counts. Interesting. Well, let's see what he goes for. Okay. Nothing. We're totally good with that. Nothing sounds fine to me.
I have the best job.
Azir welcomes all his subjects.
Cut them down! No retreat!
Yeah, we'll go like that. It's lethal if he has nothing.
Who blesses you?
Lethal if he has nothing. Yep. Alright, I mean, we'll take it. Not bad. Not bad. Decisive aggro getting there.
Damn, I'm good.
Guess we don't need Darius. Still so weird to not have Darius, though. It feels so wrong to be playing Decisive without the best overwhelmer in the game. We'll take it, though. On to the next. Interesting. Okay, this could be problematic, because they're going to have Frostbite to break the symmetry. We should be faster, but how much does that really do for us? Okay, I'll keep the unit, but we're gonna pitch the rest of the hand. Whirling Death, yeah, not particularly great. Oh my lord, and they're even gonna beat us at the aggro game because we can't draw anything. No! You gotta be kidding me! Oh, we're gonna lose every aspect of this game. Come on, give me something. That's not really what we meant. Yeah, I mean, I guess out of all these choices, Renekton is the best. We get to attack on the Renekton turn. But I'm gonna take so much damage before then. It's a Scargrounds deck? What? I mean, I'll block that. I will 100% block that. Yeah. Okay, let's play Draven. Let's play Draven. That way we can bank a Whirling Death.
Keep your distance.
So, if I give him 2 and I swing, it'll do 2, he'll go to 1, and then it'll be tough. Okay. I'm gonna go for this. This is greedy, but I'm gonna go for it because I'm greedy. And it does level the Draven up if he doesn't have another Frostbite or a way to reduce his power to... Oh! Okay, yeah. Turbo level Draven. We're going for it, baby. Going for it. We'll have double Spinning Axe in hand, too, so next time we don't have to discard something else. Okay. Not bad. Not bad. And they're pretty far off from leveling Sejuani right now. Were they looking to maybe play Renekton this turn? Okay, no Renekton. Also good for us. Oh, I like that. I like that a lot. Okay, so now I'm not terribly worried about playing a Renekton.
Where I go, carnage follows.
See what he plays. Nothing? Okay. I mean, nothing is good. We like nothing. So that will do... So if I swing with everything... if I play this, though, I can't Whirling Death.
You own what you take.
That's gonna work, correct? Okay. It does work.
God axes need victims.
Okay.
Mercy.
We'll swing like this. Because in theory, this is a very brutal attack.
Prove your worth.
Yeah, I'm willing to trade. I'm willing to lose my Renekton to have you lose your Sejuani. perfect. Like that. Like that a lot. We still have board control right now, and he doesn't have a massive Sejuani, which is also great. That is phenomenal.
Bow to no one.
What's my best play here? Probably leaving Decisive up.
Born for conquest.
Because he's gonna try to kill this, and we don't want it. We don't want him to kill this. Yep. Yeah, that seems fair. I wanted the Decisive for the attack, but that was the smarter play. So, you know.
And maybe those other
All right.
guys, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, we'll take that. Another nice and quick game. All right, yeah, on to the next. Okay. Similar vein to the last one, except honestly, this seems a bit scarier. Especially if they find that, Scar Grounds. Whirling Death's actually fairly good.
The desert is by my side. Always forward.
I really should have a better emote for saying hi to people. Because, like, if I GG'd him in response to that, like, I suppose if I did it right away, if I was quick enough off the cuff there, it would have been a little less toxic, but
See what we see.
okay, well, it's probably not worth playing the other one unless he plays something. Yeah.
Azir's command.
I mean, I will swing with everything
Send in
here.
blood.
He doesn't have a Scar Grounds out, so that's pretty sweet. We like that. Oh Lord, that was devastating. All right, well I'll play that. None of those are particularly great. Shaped Stone could be good, so maybe that's worth. No, let's take Whispered Woods. This is going on top of our deck. If there's one thing I want to draw next turn, it's something that draws me more cards. I may even just hardcast that right now.
Rome is on the top.
Okay. I mean, I'm fine with that. I'll take the damage. Okay. I mean, sure.
You're provoking it. I'll behave.
I can pull that over here. What do I want to do here? This is getting sketchy. If we can find a big overwhelmer, I mean that is a big overwhelmer, but
You must be Lord Vladimir.
And you.
Can I kill that? I don't know if I can. I need that to die though. That does eventually win him the game.
Good luck. Have fun.
Show me your best.
Okay. What can I do here? So obviously I want that to die. The question is, how
Bears ready.
likely am I to do that? If I do this, that won't kill him though, right? Is that worth doing? Or should I just, like, put that there? Do I even bother blocking there? Okay, he hasn't... Or, well, now he levels up the Vlad. Okay. So I have to, like, wombo kill my opponent next turn. Like, that's the only way we win, right? Because this Vladimir is going to just win him the game eventually. So, we Whispered Woods, or Words. Siphon Strike's not awful. It's not great, but it's not awful. Guess Vulnerable Dare is the best bet? Well, that's unfortunate. We really needed to draw cards that do something at that moment. That was the time we really needed to draw cards that were going to be playable. Drawing off spells is pretty doomed at this point. Yeah, I mean, yeah. Not a lot I can do there. Okay, yep. Yep. Alright, so we can block here, we can block here. Correct? Okay. So, we can do this to here, and then we go to 3. Okay. Pump that. Still has it has me living.
One suffers, another thrives.
Okay. Still has me living, but not by much. So that has me living by slightly more. Because I'm definitely at the point that I could just die to, like, the disciple triggers. Okay. Okay. This Captain Farron does not do it, though. Oh, he loses the Braum? I didn't even realize he killed Braum. Or I guess I killed Braum. I did not realize. Crimson Bladder, yep. That's fine. It's not fine, but I mean... yeah, we are pretty doomed here. I don't really know what we could even pull that would be doable. That's not it, right? I mean, I could play this. I guess this is the best case scenario. Is to do this.
The soul wears away like grains of sand.
Okay, that's rough. That's a solid, rough buddy. Well, at least I could kill his Vladimir and win on principle. Let's see what he's got. What you got? Oh, okay, yeah, that's his game. Yeah, yeah, we were pretty doomed at that point. Yeah, that was a terrible draw. We didn't find any of our really aggressive units, so... And we still, honestly, were fairly close, all things considered, despite the fact that we didn't draw any early cards. So, not that bad. Our opponent drew the nuts. They had the Vladimir, they had the Braum, they had the Scargrounds, and we drew the worst cards, so... Yeah, alright. I mean, is what it is. On to the next. Alright. For the Fallen / Bannerman. This could work fine for us if we can get going very early. Decisive Maneuver is actually pretty good. And I'll keep a Draven on a turn 3 attack. Ah, there we go. That's what I wanted. I wanted a Dune Keeper. That's how we make this start a lot better. Oh, I will happily trade this into that. 100%. Oh, yeah, yeah. We're fine with that. We get some damage in. They lose their Penitent. Play Ancient Preparations. That's a good card.
It's dangerous up
Now, unfortunately, we don't get to punish that. Huh. Decisive Maneuvers is such a good potential card, but I guess Shapestone's a little bit better because I'll actually be able to play it next turn. So if he has some stupid combat tricks,
just the thing for you.
all right. Well, he's evened up the damage. Play the Draven.
Time for the main event.
Swing with the Draven.
Watch and learn.
Hit with the Draven. Perfect. Get some good damage in. We'll see if he passes again. Oh, beautiful. That's what we love to see. We have another attacker, and we get to play this Renekton. Because I am, in fact, going to play this Renekton.
As I live, all will die.
I'm trying to think what you could even do to punish playing Renekton. Not a lot is the honest answer. Well, that is what we like to see. And then we will spinning axe, give it Draven the potential.
Don't back down.
And it's maximum damage. If he goes for like...
I'm a smith.
If he goes for the Concerted Strike, if he blocks and does Concerted Strike, he's in trouble.
Defend our banner.
I mean, that's a decent bit of damage. How likely am I to be punished for casting this? Likely enough. Let's put it that way. Likely enough.
For king and country.
Interesting.
Captain Dull.
Okay, we'll play Xenotype here. Decisive Maneuvers and Whirling Death should be relatively strong here.
Fall to our standard. I will fight for Demacia till the day I die.
Okay.
Don't touch that.
Things we can do here. We can Decisive Maneuver. Stun that. Yeah, we can stun that, pump everything else. And then pitch Siphoning Strike.
Now we're cooking.
And that way he has to choose who he wants to lose. And this way we still have Renekton live, in theory. Okay. Well, I mean, I can kill my opponent next turn potentially. Yeah, I guess actually Draven's the best, isn't he?
The party has arrived.
And hope he doesn't have... Okay, he doesn't have single combat. That was what we needed. Okay, so exhaust. Pop that there. Do this. Pull that. This is lethal. See what he's got. We're in dicey territory here. I guess I should have spinning axed on the Renekton first, because then I could drop him to 1 and then use Noxian Fervor to win the game. Whereas here, if he has a kill spell for the Renekton, that just costs us the game. So that was poorly played by me, and we'll see. I may get punished for that. Hey, all he needs is Concerted Strike or single combat.
Should be afraid.
He knows I only have 1 unknown in hand. I mean, if he has Concerted Strike, he should definitely cast it. Actually, it doesn't matter. No matter what. If he has interaction, he should cast it, because he's dead otherwise, so he might as well cast it. There's no downside to it. Now, is this a salty timeout, or is this really thinking? Okay, well, GG. Alright, salty timeout or something. Goodbye, Draven. Yeah, you died a worthy cause. Oh, we even get to see the sweet Renekton level up? We'll take it. I don't feel like we earned that, to be honest. Especially because I kind of played poor there at the end. But, I mean, we'll take the win. But I feel like they should have had an answer there. I feel like they had to have something. Sharp Sight doesn't work, I suppose. That's not enough because we boosted Renekton's damage enough. But yeah, I mean, we'll take it. Okay. Lucian Azir a second time, huh? Was kind of sketchy last game. Or last time. Alright, Reputation, terrible. Sandspinner, terrible. Rune Rate, yeah, no. They just pitched this whole hand. We're gonna need something a lot faster than that. A lot faster than that. We're fine with a turn 2 Dunekeeper here, potentially. Although we're also fine with the turn 1 Dunekeeper just to block. Yeah, we'll take it. We'll take the hit. We will take the hit. Oh, Lord.
See what we see. So
Play it. Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Emperor commands, the land obeys. Azir's command.
Alright, kill it. Kill it, baby. Oh, alright. Well, now our hand's not doing too much for a while, but, you know, that was a sick turn. Well, at least the next 2 turns look sweet. With Renekton into Rune Raider. This shape stone looks pretty bad right now, though. Renekton plus Siphoning Strike could actually be really, really sweet. The downside is this Renekton's not getting beefed. Oh, that sucks. Well, that sucks. We take the 3, so our opponent's back into the lead for damage. The ooh. But that is much better. Azir would die to that, right? I think so. I mean, I'm gonna play that. Almost certainly.
There is no place for savagery
Yup.
in the new Shurima. Conquest is always bloody.
I mean, that is so much damage. And a dead Azir, which is sweet. We like dead Azirs. What could he have for 2 mana? Not much. Okay. Dead Azir is dead Azir. Alright, so what we play this turn is going to depend on what my opponent plays. Emperor's Dais. That I'm not terribly concerned about. I'm more concerned about what else he could play.
My steel is yours.
Well, that's scary. Oh, that was a little bit of an early scoop, but I get it. I get it. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I mean, we'll take it. We'll take it. That was such a sketchy shaped stone, though. But, I mean, he already used 1 sharp sight, so I guess it wasn't that sketchy, but, yeah. Yep. Nice. So, how do we do in our matches? We went 4-1, which is not too bad. I did not play as many games this week as I'd like to, and that's because I spent a lot of time playing some other decks that I had intended to do instead, and they performed terribly, which is both of the decks I covered on MetaCheck. They had absolutely horrendous win rates. I mean, I only gave 3 games to Scargrounds in the end, so it's a little unfair to say that, but Lysandra Trundle disappointed heavily, so I ended up only having a few games on Decisive because I have messed around with it in the previous week since, actually, pretty much since the first few days of Shurima. I tried out Decisive Shurima, and I was like, oh yeah, this deck seems pretty fun, and so I said, why not? We'll try it this week, after how poorly the other decks did, so I changed quickly, and yeah, absolutely crushed it. Pretty good. We only had the one repeat matchup, so that was a little disappointing, but just in general, deck definitely did well. Seems like the spell package might be a little bit high, and maybe we do better with a few more overwhelm threats. I don't know how much Xenotype is really worth over the Ballista for the overwhelm, but yeah, all in all, I mean, the deck definitely performs very well. It's surprising how often Shaped Stone actually works for the deck. And then, like, Ancient Preparations is just really, really good. I've always been kind of unsure of the card. I know a lot of people were playing it, but yeah, I wasn't 100% convinced of it, but this definitely helped to convince me a lot more because just improving your next draw, especially when you can play it on turn 1, that's incredible. To set up a perfect, well, a better turn 2. And then you get a nice body out of it eventually, which is solid as well. But yeah, just in general, Shaped Stone, way better than I would have expected it to be. Exhaust is as good as I did expect it to be. And yeah, it's still a little bit weird to not be running Darius, but I can understand why when we're honestly killing our opponent usually before Darius would even come down. But I may try squeezing some Darius in there as well, or like a one-of just to have it there, but all in all, deck is very, very solid, very aggressive. It hits on all of those good high points from Decisive Aggro of previous seasons when it was a Targon deck. I feel like it is in better shape with Shurima. Part of that's the Pale Cascade nerf. It hit that deck kind of hard. So, and just in general, like, the big thing you lose is probably Mountain Goat from that list, so it's not a huge loss when we're getting things like, you know, Renekton is obviously a big staple, but Rune Rider is a really great win condition, considering that it comes with that Spell Shield stapled on. It's really good into control decks. So, just all in all, feels really solid. You can run down your opponent incredibly quickly. It's fairly resilient into most of the control decks these days are going to be damage-based, so it's very resilient into that. So just in general, it feels like it's got a solid chance into the meta. I haven't played it against Fizzlusives enough to really get a solid feel for how it'll do into big decks like that, but definitely planning to play it a lot more this weekend to get a much more of a feel of it. It feels great right now. It's a lot of fun. The card draw is a nice added bonus. We have a little more card draw than we had previously because of the Whispering Woods, so that's really, really nice. Something that we didn't have as much of in the Targon. So, yeah, just all in all, it's a solid aggro deck if you want to play aggro, but you don't want to play Fizzlusives, which, you know, I can understand that. And just in general, too, if we see a lot more Lysandra Trundle, I would expect this deck to do better than Fizzlusives would into that matchup. But Lysandra Trundle is terrible, so at least in my experience of playing 10+ games of it. Just in general, yeah, I think it's a great choice if you want to go that route, and it can definitely win even against other aggro decks that should be a little bit quicker than it. It can definitely steal wins because some of our turns are very, very aggressive. I just might consider going down spells a little bit just because we had a couple games where we were so spell heavy and it just and our loss largely came down to how many spells we had in the deck and drawing too many of them. So I might look into that to see if there's a little bit of a better way to go about it than that. But otherwise, solid list, solid strategy, highly recommend it. Give it a try. If you like aggro decks, it's definitely worth the time. It's worth the wild cards. So, for sure. Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like, comment below, and subscribe for more videos just like it.